In today's video, I'll show you not only how to paint black without it looking grey, but also a simple way of creating texture which as an exercise is great to improve your brush control. To highlight, I'm using khaki green. The small amount of yellow in this color will allow me to highlight the black without desaturating it too much, like it would happen were I to use a grey or a white. Once I've mixed a chromatic grey, I'll swap to a number 1 brush, work the paint into it and begin the texture work. The hand I'm holding the model with is comfortably on the table, while with my brush hand I'm using my pinky as a support against the steady brick my holding hand and the model have become. By moving my middle finger alone, I can quickly paint a succession of lines along the folds of the cloak, to begin both the texture and highlight process. With the technique out of the way, let's have a look at it from up close. I began not by painting the very center of the fold, but working both sides separately and having them meet in the middle. I am also not looking for the lines to go from the crevice to the raised fold. I'm keeping them short to build up the texture slowly through stages. Working with a small brush which holds little paint will have it dry faster, so every once in a while I'll recommend you rinse your brush with water, so not to build up dry paint and lose the precision of the fine tip. Once I'm done with the cloak, I'll go back to my old mixing brush and add more khaki to the previous mix for the next highlight. The application will be the same, though this time I'll just do straight lines along the middle of the fold. Apart from highlighting, superposing different color lines will create a more complex texture. Following the same process, I added texture to the shadow areas with a darker mix than the one I began with. Keeping 2 small lines, this was enough to cover some of the shadow areas, though for deeper ones I had to do an extra step of lines. This final step, however, was unnecessary, since moving on I'll bring back the black color to the cloak, and with it the deeper texture will begin to disappear as it blends with the shadow. After looking at the final result, I decided that the highlights could be pushed a bit further, and things might look messy now, but the key part of the process comes next. Now that the textures are done, it is time to turn the cloak back to black again, and blend everything together. For it, I'll heavily dilute my black paint into a glaze consistency. It is very important I remove any excess from the brush before I move onto the model, since my aim is to create a transparent filter which will tone everything down. To achieve this, paint must be spread evenly throughout the surface, not letting it pull on the recesses. That is why I call this a glaze and not a wash. When painting black, we must have in mind that since there is nothing darker than it, that will be the shadow color always. Only thing left is to go brighter. This method aims to paint the piece as it would be done with any other color, and finally, through multiple glazes, begin to darken everything down in a coherent way, until the darkest areas reach their corresponding pure black color. Here I'm showing the difference a single layer of glazing does when looking at the left and the right halves, not only darkening but also blending the textures together. After a pair of layers, I decided the highlights were looking good enough, so I focused only on the recesses. Though in the end, an extra diluted layer was applied to the raised fold for a pinch of extra blending. Depending on the look you're going after, this will vary, but keep in mind always that more paint can be added but not taken out. And with that, the coat was once again looking black. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the video both useful and entertaining. Like always, huge thanks to my patrons Kayab and Cedric. But that'll be it for today. Hope to see you again next week.